Trump didn't just save gamers, he might have saved the West. This is probably one of the most important executive orders that he signed. Censorship of people, organization, companies, artists, etc. cannot be instituted by payment processors anymore. Doesn't matter if people hate Nick Fuentes and people who make distasteful artwork. Promoting the censorship and debanking of these people will actually lead to the collapse of the West. Without the free exchange of ideas and thought, no matter how distasteful, a functional society cannot function long term. This is huge, man. This is a huge, huge thing. But we have a video on this right here, because I guess like that video is like an Asman Gold video. I think this is the video that Asman reacted to right here. Trump just signed an order that can save Steam.
Games are being censored, not by Steam though, but by the banks that handle the money. This new executive order is the first legal step in stopping this. Recently, if you haven't heard, some games were removed from the Steam store, but this wasn't because of a bug or a developer's choice. Instead, it happened because a big payment company like MasterCard decided that a few games were a reputational risk. This is a vague rule that lets them pressure a company like Steam to remove any games they don't like. As a result, the banks that handle the money for Steam got involved,
and this is, again, this is the same issue with 2A and anything else. Once you start opening the door, they will take everything. Once you start going, well, we have to censor this thing because it's bad. And then you start moving that discussion to where, well, if we're going to censor this, we should probably censor that. And if we censor this, we should censor that. And it kind of goes back to where I talk about words. Oh, the N-word. We can't say the N-word. Okay. Well, guess what? Now there's a new word we can't say. Oh, there's a new word we can't say. Oh, there's a different word we can't say. And at some point, we're not going to be able to say any fucking thing. So that's why you can't give anything to these clowns, because they're not interested in doing things to protect the kids. They're not doing things to protect the children. That's not what they're doing it for. They never have and they never will. And whenever they use that argument, you know that they are straight up lying.
A chain of pressure that led to the games actually being removed. This is a big deal because it shows that a third-party company that handles the money, not the government or Steam itself, is now deciding what we can and can't buy. This kind of power is a form of digital censorship, and is especially concerning since a new rule was recently added to Steam's guidelines that gives them the power to remove content that may violate the rules and standards set forth by our payment processors. The thing is, the Steam situation is just one example of a much bigger problem. It's part of a growing trend of these payment companies censoring or even debanking anything they don't like. Debanking is when banks or payment companies close accounts or refuse to work with people and businesses for reasons that aren't actually about money. The censorship we're seeing on platforms like Steam is very similar to how banks debank people.
Which is what happened to Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes was debanked. I don't know how, I don't know if this was like literally every bank or whatever. It doesn't matter if it was literally every bank or if it was just one bank. I don't know the specifics of his situation, but the fact that he was debanked is absolutely insane.
Processors are essentially saying, if you don't remove this content, we will stop doing business with you, which means you can't get paid. This is a direct financial threat. It's what itch.io stated when they said they had to act urgently to protect the platform's core payment infrastructure. And also when Valve said if they didn't remove the games, it would prevent customers from buying games and content across Steam. The White House announcement calls this politicized or unlawful debanking and highlights how some financial institutions have restricted access to services on the basis of political or religious beliefs or lawful business activities. So this isn't just about video games. Something similar has happened to cryptocurrency companies, legal gun stores, and even anime stores. The White House announcement points to other examples as well, such as when federal regulators suggested banks flag individuals who made transactions related to companies like Cabela's and Bass Pro Shop. These payment networks are essentially the roads of the digital economy. By controlling these roads, these companies can stop anyone they disagree with from doing business. Even
Yes, somebody just said it in the chat with you had Ripa with that whole situation with PayPal, and then recently who was it that's just had a PayPal issue as well? Who had an issue with them? Arch had right? Archcast, didn't he have an issue with PayPal? And this is like very basic shit that yeah, there it is. Yeah, you guys, that was right. This is this isn't as widespread as some people may seem to think it is, but the danger that we are facing when people start being silenced over their political voices is insane. Say whatever you want about Nick Fuentes. I don't care. I don't care if you love him. I don't care if you hate him. The man should never have been debanked. Like, didn't he have a guy come to his house like a year and a half ago trying to kill him? And that guy actually killed other people before he came to Nick Fuentes' house. Now, is that because, maybe he was financially hit by being censored and he didn't have the resources he needed to have the proper security he needed? I don't know if that was the case. And it doesn't really matter if that was the case. The fact is that he should never be in that position to begin with where he's being debanked. So now that opens up the questions of like, does this guy even have the level of security that he needs, considering how, how hated he is online because of his takes? Insanity.
if they haven't broken any real laws. So, to fight back against this, President Trump has signed a new executive order called Guaranteeing Fair Banking for All Americans. This is a direct response to what the president's office calls systemic abuses by financial institutions that undermine free expression and economic opportunity. This new rule tells federal groups that watch over banks to stop using vague reasons like reputational risk in their guidance and manuals. The order is specific, stating that regulators must remove the use of reputational risk or equivalent concepts that could result in politicized or unlawful debanking. From now on, banks must make their decisions based on clear financial reasons. The order also directs federal banking regulators to review banks for any past or current policies that encourage politicized or unlawful debanking and to take action, including charging a fine. The ultimate
I want to remind you, all of the people that cried when for years I talked about President Trump and how I was in the nerd gaming geek world and how people are like, I can't believe you're trying to bring politics into this. Well, you stupid motherfuckers, it was always part of this. It was always part of this. If Kamala wins the election, we're not having this conversation. In fact, this is getting much worse. So this was always part of the conversation because the left decided to start bringing their real world opinions into the world of entertainment. It was always part of it. So all of you pronoun fucking weirdos, all of you blue-haired land whales, all of you fat, ugly motherfuckers who have no fucking social life whatsoever, until you sit online all fucking day crying about Orange Man bad, go fuck yourself, since nobody else will. But I was right the whole time.
Goal of this order, as stated by the White House, is to ensure that no American should be denied access to financial services because of their beliefs, affiliations, or political views. This is meant to prevent any financial unfair treatment and give fair access to banking for all legal businesses and people. So, how does this new order connect directly to our problem on Steam? This is where the details of how payments work become really important. As Valve confirmed in their response, MasterCard didn't go directly to Valve and tell them to remove the games. MasterCard communicated with acquiring banks. These are the banks that handle the money for businesses like Steam. MasterCard cited one of its rules, Rule 5.12.7, which says that a business can't process transactions that may damage the goodwill of the corporation or reflect negatively on the marks. It's important to know that Visa has a very similar rule, just showing how this is a widespread issue across the payment industry. This is a perfect example of a vague reputational risk clause. MasterCard didn't have to prove the games were illegal, just that they were a risk to their brand. This was in response to a...
Now, the interesting thing is, I commented on this last week on Twitter. And I said MasterCard dealing with gamers is the biggest fuck around find out moment in a long time. And Madam Savvy has been absolutely on point with this. She has been crushing it. But this is always the fuck around find out moment. Do not mess with gamers. The moment you mess with gamers, you're done. You're over with. And this is a true FO moment for them. And now you got President Trump, which, listen, man, I love Trump. Huge fan of Trump. Donald Trump's not watching, Geeks and Gamers videos and trying to figure out what's going on in the culture from that perspective. I don't know who is in his ear. I know the meme out there is that Barron Trump is essentially just like, constantly telling his dad what's going on in the gaming world. And trust me, I hope that's true. I hope that Barron Trump is like constantly just going, Father, they're fucking with the gamers. Father, sign an executive order. Fuck them over. It's so good if that's true. It really is.
Small number of complaints from the activist group Collective Shout. The acquiring banks, fearing that they would lose their partnership with a major payment network, then pressured Valve to remove the games. Valve complied, which is why they weren't fully debanked. So the executive order aims to stop this by forcing financial institutions to justify their decisions based on individual, objective, and risk-based analysis. The key difference is simple. Risk-based analysis is about measurable financial threats. Reputational risk is about feelings and public opinion. The new executive order is designed to stop financial companies from using the second one as an excuse to
again, the fact that you've got
threats. Reputational risk is
right
about
here.
Feelings and public opinion. The new executive order is designed
The fact that you've got DeChambeau, you got 48 standing behind him,
to stop
and you got Triple H. This is insane, dude. Like, it's absolute. Trump is the culture. Donald Trump is the culture. No one else is even close. Donald Trump doesn't move the culture. Donald Trump is the culture. The cultural shift that we have seen can never be stated enough. What we are witnessing with this 79-year-old man who makes the weirdest comments in the world, who says the weirdest things sometimes. It's amazing.
Companies from using the second one as an excuse to shut down legal businesses. This could protect game developers from being unfairly censored. So what can we expect now? While this executive order is a major step, it has its limitations. Some might argue that it doesn't mean much because it can't directly regulate companies like MasterCard or Visa. However, the executive order does create a powerful incentive for banks to stop caving to this type of pressure. If an acquiring bank knows that it could be fined by a federal regulator for acting on a reputational risk concern, it's far less likely to do so. This could make the vague rules of payment processors effectively powerless. According to Valve's newest statement, they were pressured by these banks, citing MasterCard's rule. So while Valve wasn't formally debanked, they were put in a position where they had to choose between censorship and a massive financial threat. This is the exact thing this executive order is trying to stop. Looking forward though, this executive order could pave the way for more changes. We could see new legislation like the Fair Access to Banking Act gain momentum in Congress. This act, which has seen bipartisan support, aims to prevent banks from using subjective, non-financial standards when deciding who to do business with. A new law would have way more power than an executive order. It could directly and
to put this into perspective, we had a dude that was put in prison for memes. Hillary Clinton memes. A dude was put in prison for a Hillary Clinton meme. A lot of people don't know about this. That happened. That happened. But of course, guys, we're just making stuff up about all of these things going on with the evil left. Is he still in prison? No. His name is what's his name? Is it Douglas Mackey? Is that his name? Chat. I think it was Douglas. I think. And he recently got out. I think that he I think that he did not. He chose to not get a pardon, or he requested to not get a pardon. And again, says a lot about him, because yeah, but dude went to prison over a fucking meme.
Legally stop payment networks from denying service based on a business's legal activities or political views. The details of the bill are designed to force this change. For example, it would prevent banks from making decisions based on unfair and random standards, a legal way of saying a decision made without a good, clear reason. The bill requires banks to have a written, documented report showing a risk-based analysis for all decisions. This means they would have to back up their choices with clear, factual information, not vague concerns about their brand. This would be a more permanent solution, like treating these payment companies as essential services. So
here's the guy right here. This is his name right here. So right here. So Douglas Mackey, is that it? And somebody in the Rumble chat says it was a stupid fucking boomer meme at that. I remember seeing variations of it on Facebook every election for about a decade prior. Yeah, it was. It was just some stupid boomer meme is all it was. And yeah, he went to jail over it.
if the pressure from payment processors start to disappear, the new rule on Steam would become unnecessary and could pave the way for a return to a more hands-off content policy on the platform. So, although the fight to stop censoring games is not over yet, there are some signs it might not last forever.
So that was a good video. That is from Water CS2 is the name. So there you go. But it goes back to this point right here. Trump didn't just save gamers. He might have saved the West. This is probably one of the most important executive orders that he has signed. This is huge. This is what I voted for. This is what I've been talking about for the past decade plus. This is what was so important about having the right leader in this position. And in my opinion, the only person that I can even think about being in this position that could do what needs to be done is Donald Trump. He's the greatest president of my lifetime. He's the greatest president of all time. And he has literally saved the West, and he has moved the culture like no other individual could do. No one has the pull that Trump has. Nobody. He's not even into the gaming world. He said some stupid shit about gamers in the past. I called him out on it. But he knows how to listen. And again, if the theory is true that Barron Trump, his son, is in his ear telling him about all of this stuff, I'm telling you, man, there's not a better story. There's not a better story that's ever come out of Hollywood than this story right here. The story of the Trump family and the Trump dynasty. And with Barron Trump guiding his father to save the culture and save gaming. It's amazing. It really is. And so I'm so happy. But somebody is in his ear that understands these things. And it's not just that, but it's the South Park stuff. It's the way that the administration is handling the South Park stuff. It's the way with Kristi Noem and how she reacted negatively at first. And then apparently someone talked to her and says, you've got to lean into this. You cannot play the victim. And so she fully owned it. J.D. Vance owning it. And then people beyond the administration like Charlie Kirk. This is how you win right here. And it's all because of Donald Trump. So super, super happy. And all the people that continued to say how, me being a Trump supporter and talking about it during, streams where I was talking about entertainment, fuck you. I was right. I was right the whole time, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can cry. You can put your pronouns in your bio. You can walk around without deodorant because you smell like shit. It doesn't matter. You can do whatever you want. But the bottom line is I was right and you were wrong, and you're still retarded. And I am too, to be fair. I'm retarded too, but I'm just not as retarded as you with your pronouns in your bio. So we'll just leave it at that.